Los Angeles Rams at the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens favored by 7 at home. Rams are sitting at 6-6. They're currently, 7 seed in the NFC? 8 seed in the NFC, right behind the Packers. Again, I'll reference that game for the rest of the year. And the Ravens battling for the number 1 seed. They're sitting there at 9-3, tied with the Dolphins for the best record in the NFC. Ravens favored by 7 here at home.
Yeah, and the Ravens now, one of those teams in the AFC with a real shot at the number 1 seed. I think they've been doing an impressive job with that. They have dealt, I think, okay without Mark Andrews in that offense since he got injured. It's been fine. Like Isaiah Likely has picked up some of the slack. They've gotten some play out of some other guys as well. But it is by necessity a different offense than it was when Andrews is the number 1 guy. They're very different skill sets, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, and you're not going to see the same kind of workload. So they are, I think, spreading it around a bit more. You look at last game against the Chargers, Rashad Bateman had 5 targets, Zay Flowers had 7, Odell Beckham had 5, Likely had 4. Like, they are spreading the ball around a lot more than they did or needed to when they had Mark Andrews.
That's the best thing about this Ravens offense this year, right? Todd Monken coming in. You've got a different running game. You've got the ability to they lean into playmaking center Tyler Linderbaum, getting him in space. But it's a more versatile run game. There's a bigger variety of playmakers, and you still have Lamar Jackson to lean into, right? So when we saw them a couple weeks ago against the Chargers, the offense was inconsistent, but when it came down to crunch time and they needed to run the clock out, it's a couple Lamar Jackson keepers, Zay Flowers on an end around. They have, as I've said before, they've got the power run game, they've got the mobile quarterback, they've got a guy like Zay Flowers who's difficult in space.
That might have been Zay Flowers' best game, the Chargers game.
Yeah, I agree. So
people are still mad about our take with Zay Flowers.
Who's mad?
People. The people.
I mean, he hasn't been that different from, again, there's scheme fit. I think he's gone to a place that's leaning into his skill set very well.
Yeah. I think
but he also, he's not that, we had Tank Dell and Josh Downs ahead of him or in that range or whatever, and that was they've been similarly productive, but in different ways, right? They're all small receivers with different skill sets. I think we've seen all of that so far in the NFL.
A lot of people were big mad about my comp of Dante Hall adjusted for inflation. I still think that's pretty good. I know you might be, it depends on the power of your adjustment for inflation. Like, teams did not have any idea what to do with the Dante Hall back when Dante Hall was playing, which is one of the reasons why Peter Warrick didn't have an amazing NFL career, because teams just don't know what to do with that. Back then, they do now. Like, Peter Warrick in today's NFL probably looks a lot like Zay Flowers, as does Dante Hall. The point being, teams are so much better now at being able to take a guy like that, put him in the slot, give him design screens, give him end arounds, jet motions, all this kind of stuff that didn't really happen or wasn't as dangerous back then because of the formations and the way teams are playing defense and offense. So his numbers are going to look completely night and day from Dante Hall, because Hall had a few years where he was used as a receiver and they were like, this doesn't work, forget it. He's a punt returner. But I think the point being, the adjusted for inflation part, he is, I think, a similar skill set of player that's just being used way better and probably has a bit more to his game in terms of being able to play in different roles as well. But I honestly don't think that's a bad comp still, even if the production is going to be wildly different. Yeah,
Zay's on a 3-game stretch. He's his best 3-game stretch of the season. I think he's developing a little bit. I would also say I think a lot of his big plays have been scramble drill plays, which is fine. Part of the issue is I don't think he was a great route runner. I think he's fine in space, but he has a lot of plays to nowhere, right? He gets fed a lot of plays that don't go anywhere. I mean, look, he's been fine, but I think the development the last few weeks too is encouraging for the Ravens, as they'll need to lean on him more with Mark Andrews out. On the other side, how do the Rams pull this upset potentially? Oh, really quick, the Ravens defense. You know how the Browns defense had been number 1 in EPA per play pretty much since week 1. Mm-hmm. And in their own world, in a chart, if you're charting that, it's creeping closer now. The Ravens are right behind them. It's minus 0.18 for the Browns, minus 0.16 for the Ravens. Ravens, so number 2 in EPA per play against defensively. So Baltimore is closing in on being the best defense in the league against a Rams offense that I think has done a really nice job with their run game. Kyron Williams has been fantastic, but they've been scheming it up, creating numbers advantages for him. They're going to need, I think, the run game to shorten it, but also Stafford playing special ball, 4 or 5 big-time throws like he did last week.
The stat that jumps out for the Ravens defense is still that yards per pass attempt allowed. Like, they are allowing 4.4 yards per pass attempt. The next closest team is the Browns, and they're at 5.2. So the Ravens are nearly a full yard better than any defense in the NFL this year in the pass game, which is absurd.
Yeah, and for Baltimore, I think it's just been a few years of making good decisions, getting guys like Kyle Hamilton and leaning into their versatility. So I think it's a fun matchup. Remember last year when Sean McVay was using like Ben Skoranek as a fullback?
Yeah.
And it's like, here's some creative stuff the Rams are doing, but it doesn't matter because everything else is bad. This year, everything else, Stafford's healthy, line's playing better. The creative stuff they're doing is giving them an advantage. I think it's impressive that the Rams are sitting here at 6-6, given their roster. I think this will be a challenge, though, going up against Baltimore.
Just in the last couple of weeks, though, Stafford's numbers have finally started to tick in the direction that his play has been all season long. Remember earlier in the year, it was like, how the hell does Stafford only have like 8 touchdowns when he's been throwing dimes left, right, and center? Well, he got on a run of 4 straight games with only 1 touchdown, 3 of which were offset by 1 interception, right? And then last week, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions against the Browns defense. The week before that, Arizona, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. So just in the last 2 weeks, he's accounted for almost half of his passing touchdowns in the season and not offset that by a bunch of turnovers. So if that continues for Stafford, that's more like it.
83.6 grade. 83.7 grade for Stafford, number 11 in the NFL. He's having one of his best seasons, but yeah, the stats are, like as you said, starting to catch up. And this is the lowest, it's got to be the lowest turnover-worthy play rate he's ever had.
Yeah.
1.8%.
Easily.
So Stafford's playing really well. We'll see if he can elevate that offense with Puka Nacua and those young receivers. 7 points, though. Where are you going with this one?
It is a lot of points, but I'm going to go with the Ravens still.
Yeah, give me the Ravens at home. They waxed Detroit and Seattle at home, if that means anything. NFC teams going into Baltimore this year, losing by 1 million. So we'll say that's going to happen again. I'll take the Ravens to cover the 7.